welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something heavy, a profound and, frankly, often disturbing piece of history.
Yeah.
The encounter between the Spanish and the Taino people. We've got quite a stack of sources here, historical accounts, commentary, analysis.
Right.
And our mission, like always, is to pull out the key insights, the surprising facts to help you get properly informed.
Exactly. And the sources range quite a bit. We have these really raw historical bits detailing atrocities, but also broader analyses looking at things like, well, genocide and the Spanish context itself.
So the goal is synthesis.
The goal is synthesis, yeah. Trying to bring it all together for you.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning, those initial interactions.
Mm-hmm.
The accounts are, well, they're graphic. Horrifying, actually.
They really are.
You read reports saying the Spanish threw Taino babies against rocks into rivers, laughing while they did it,
It's almost unimaginable.
and cutting off pieces of people for, like, entertainment, practicing sword swings by cutting off heads.
And the systematic rape of women and girls, even the wife of a cacique, a Taino king.
Which then connects to the syphilis spreading back to Europe, a sort of grim consequence.
A devastating boomerang effect, really.
There's this one line that just chills you. The Spanish were kinder to their animals than to the Tainos.
And the scale of it,
Yeah.
the sheer scale. You hear about this rule, this horrifying reprisal. If one Taino killed a Spaniard,
100 Tainos were killed.
the 100, yeah, they killed Tainos by the thousands. Even people who brought them food, gifts, initially trying to be welcoming.
Right, and in one kingdom, Maguana, they just wiped out half the population.
Right.
Half.
Gone. Right. It just begs the question, how do you even rationalize that level of brutality?
And the numbers, the overall impact. It's staggering. There's one estimate suggesting 3 million out of 3.5 million Tainos.
Which is 85%.
85%. Wiped out by genocide and disease between 1492 and 1518.
And what's really stark is that most of that happened before the big smallpox epidemic hit in 1518.
So the groundwork was already laid.
The groundwork was absolutely laid. Now, about those specific numbers, there is some debate. It's true.
Okay.
Modern researchers often think Bartolomé de las Casas, who gave some of the highest figures, might have exaggerated. Some estimates put Hispaniola's population lower, maybe 500,000. The overall range people talk about, it's huge, like 200,000 up to maybe 8 million across all the islands.
That's a massive range.
It is. And historians now generally agree that, yes, epidemic diseases, smallpox, influenza, measles, typhus were quantitatively the biggest killer. Huge waves of death.
So, okay, if disease was the main driver of the numbers, how does the genocide label fit? Does it still fit?
Oh, absolutely. That's such a crucial point. Just because disease killed the most people doesn't negate genocide. Think about it. People are forced off their land. They can't grow food. Remember the Taino strike where they stopped planting crops as resistance?
And trying to starve the Spanish out.
Exactly. But it backfired. So they're denied food, they're overworked in mines and fields, they're underfed, their bodies are weakened. Disease then becomes effectively a weapon. It sweeps through populations that are already devastated by policy.
So the conditions created by the Spanish made the diseases far deadlier.
Precisely. And Las Casas himself, he was there, an eyewitness Spanish priest. He saw massacres. He saw the intentional killing of women and children. He called it genocide because it wasn't war. It had no military goal other than extermination.
It's recognized today.
Yeah, Yale's Genocide Studies program, for instance, explicitly recognizes the Taino experience as a case of colonial genocide.
And Christopher Columbus, he's obviously central here, often portrayed as this hero, but the sources paint him as, well, a tyrant.
The tyrannical dictator, absolutely. His brutality got so bad that even the Spanish monarchs, Isabella and Ferdinand, had him arrested, removed from power, shipped back to Spain in chains.
Wow. And his demands on the Tainos. Gold or cotton?
Yeah, for everyone over 13, a quota. And if you didn't meet it,
They cut off your hands.
they cut off your hands. Just systematic cruelty.
And as you mentioned, this wasn't isolated. The consequences bounced back like the syphilis epidemic in Europe.
Right. It shows how these encounters had these far-reaching, often unforeseen reciprocal effects. Destructive actions rarely stay contained.
But even amidst all this darkness, there are these incredible stories of resistance. Hatui, the Taino leader in Cuba.
Hatui, yeah.
Ooh.
A powerful figure. He supposedly told his people, throw your gold in the rivers. Gold is the Christians' god. They'll kill us for it.
And he fought back.
He led a guerrilla war against them. Fierce resistance.
Until he was captured.
Until he was captured. And his final moments, just incredibly defiant. They're about to burn him alive, and a priest offers him baptism, a path to heaven.
And what did he say?
He asked if Spaniards went to heaven. The priest said yes, the good ones did. And Hatui said, well, then he'd rather go to hell than be anywhere near people like that.
Wow. That just says everything about the perceived hypocrisy and the brutality he experienced. A total rejection.
A profound statement on the clash of values and how the Tainos saw the Christianity being presented to them.
So, to understand the Spanish side a bit more, what was Spain like back then, around 1491?
Well, population-wise, maybe 6 to 10 million people. Castilian Spanish was the main language. Interestingly, unlike, say, France or Italy, Spain didn't really have huge cities, none over 50,000.
Really? Mostly rural?
Largely, yeah. Economy based on farming, fishing. They had craftsmen making iron, wool, sugar. Wheat bread was a staple food. Militarily, they had steel swords, lances, armor, and crucially, horses.
Which were terrifying to people who'd never seen them.
Exactly. But there's this interesting analysis calling their culture non-ecosystemic, meaning it was kind of inherently unsustainable, maybe too focused on cities and warfare compared to, say, the Taino system.
How so?
Well, for example, their main crop, wheat, only produced about half the calories per hectare compared to cassava, which was a Taino staple. They needed more land, more conquest to sustain their model.
And the influence of the Moors.
Yeah.
That's huge, isn't it? 700 years of rule by dark-skinned Muslims.
Immense. The Moors brought incredible advancements, architecture, science, medicine, advanced agriculture. Things like citrus fruits, figs, pomegranates, sugarcane, cotton, silk, rice, all came through them. It basically kept Iberia afloat economically during what Europe calls the Dark Ages.
So this long history, being ruled by people they later expelled,
Yeah.
how did that shape the Spanish mindset when they encountered the Tainos? The sources mention this deep contempt for dark skin.
It seems deeply connected. Their fervent hatred for the Moors, culminating in the Reconquista, seems to have tragically carried over. That intolerance, that cruelty.
And the Inquisition was happening right around then too, wasn't it?
Exactly. The Spanish Inquisition was already targeting Jews, Muslims, later Protestants, even homosexuals right there in Spain. Torture, murder. It set a terrifying precedent for how they treat others, including the indigenous peoples of the Americas.
And this idea of whitening, that was an actual policy.
It effectively was, yeah. Because there weren't many Spanish women coming over initially, they encouraged Spanish men to marry Amerindian and African women. But it wasn't about equality. They created this complex caste system. The casta paintings show this, designed to literally breed out darkness over generations. They even had ideologies like La Raza, which sounds inclusive but functioned almost like a reverse one-drop rule, aiming for eventual whiteness through mixing.
It's just layers upon layers of ideology driving this.
Absolutely.
Now, the common story we often get, especially in older history books, is that the Tainos were completely wiped out.
Exterminated.
Yeah, and that's, well, it's a myth. It's simply not accurate.
Really? So they survived.
Definitely. Unmixed Taino communities persisted, especially in more remote areas of islands like Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. The problem was official records often erased them.
Censuses would reclassify them, often as free-colored or other categories. So even though there were royal decrees meant to protect native villages and grant them freedom, on paper, they started to disappear. It's a form of administrative extermination, if you will.
Erased on paper while still existing.
Precisely. And we know pure Tainos still exist today, particularly in eastern Cuba, in places like the Sierra Maestra and Guantanamo province. They've maintained elements of their culture, even language fragments.
And the DNA evidence backs this up too, right?
Massively. Studies, especially on people with roots in Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, show significant Taino genetic ancestry. It points not to total extinction, but to widespread intermixture, interbreeding, so their lineage survived, mixed into the populations.
This intermingling. It wasn't just genetic, was it? It seeped into culture too. You mentioned flamenco earlier.
Right. Spanish flamenco, it has that sound, that feel, very reminiscent of some Indian music and dance forms. And it's strongly linked to the Romani people, the Gypsies, who themselves came to Spain centuries ago, originally from India. Another layer of mixing.
And the Moorish influence again.
Absolutely. Moorish culture deeply impacted Spanish music, ideas of chivalry, courtly love. Some scholars even argue their preservation and translation of classical Greek texts was a key factor in sparking the European Renaissance. It shows this incredible, complex cultural hybridity that really defined Spanish identity, even if parts of it were later denied or downplayed.
So bringing this back to today, Columbus Day in the U.S., it's still a federal holiday. Kids often learn about Columbus, the brave explorer.
Right, the heroic narrative.
But for many people, especially those with ties to the Caribbean or indigenous communities, it's become, as some sources say, a day of sorrow and pain because of all this history we've been discussing.
Yeah.
That statue in Mayaguez, Puerto Rico, it's a flashpoint.
It really is, and it raises a fundamental question, doesn't it? Why are some historical atrocities, some genocides like the Holocaust, widely acknowledged, taught, mourned, while others, like what happened to the Taino, have been, for so long, kind of hidden and masked from history books, sometimes even celebrated?
It speaks volumes about who gets to write history.
It absolutely does. It highlights how powerful historical narratives are in shaping national identity and how messy and ongoing the process of reckoning with the past truly is.
Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about, a final provocative thought for you, the listener.
Yeah, consider this. If history, as they say, is written by the victors, and if it so often involves burying inconvenient truths, denying the contributions, or even the existence of other cultures, what other foundational stories, what other historical truths that we take for granted might still be distorted or hidden, and what would happen if we uncovered them? How could discovering those untold stories change not just our view of the past, but maybe even reshape who we think we are today and where we go in the future?